All right, let's jump right in. We are about to go down a pretty deep rabbit hole, exploring a system that claims to connect, well, just about everything. We're talking about the alphabet, the way our society is structured, and maybe even reality itself. It's a huge claim, I know. So let's break it down piece by piece. This right here, this quote, it pretty much sets the stage for everything we're about to talk about. It's all about a massive shift in how humans operate, moving from a world of teeth, which is all about survival, to a world of strings, which is about creativity, connection, and play. So, what's the big problem we're dealing with? According to the source material, our world right now is a teeth world. Think about it, a reality based on the logic of bite or be bitten, of constantly competing for things that seem scarce. It's a system that basically has our nervous systems perpetually on high alert. And here you can see it, laid out side by side. The two worlds, two completely different ways of operating. On one side, you've got the teeth world of survival. On the other, the strings world of play, abundance, and connection. One is a zero-sum game where you have to take from others. The other is a positive-sum game where we create more together. And that's the core conflict we're exploring. So how in the world do we get from one to the other? Well, the idea here is that the solution is hiding in a place we'd never think to look. Something so basic we never even question it. I'm talking about our alphabet. So let me just ask you this. We all learned our ABCs as just a random list of shapes that make certain sounds, right? But what if that's not the whole story? What if it's not random at all? And let's take that a step further. What if its real purpose wasn't just to write words, but to act as a kind of technology, one designed to literally build the architecture of our minds and our reality? The idea is that these symbols don't just describe the world, they actually create it. Okay, so this brings us to the formal term for this whole idea. This isn't just a metaphor. It's being presented as a technical system, a framework where geometry, numbers, and letters aren't separate things at all. Instead, they're just different views of the same underlying operating system. So let's pop the hood and see how this thing actually works. What are the nuts and bolts? Well, it all starts by boiling down every symbol we use into its most basic parts. And this is where it gets really, really cool. The entire system, everything, is supposedly built from just these four simple shapes you see here: a diagonal line, a horizontal line, a vertical line, and a curve. That's it. I mean, really let that sink in. Every single letter you've ever written, every number, it's just a mashup of those four basic forms. The letter A, that's two diagonals and a horizontal. The number 8, that's just two curves stacked on top of each other. All this amazing complexity, all coming from this profound simplicity. Okay, so you've got the shapes, but what holds them all together? It's a specific numerical pattern. You've actually seen it everywhere, on clocks, in calendars. This system works in cycles of 12, with a 13th point that acts as a kind of center or reset. This 12 around 1 pattern is supposedly the engine that drives the whole thing. Oh, right, this is all fascinating theory, but what's the point? How does this apply to the real world? Well, the real goal here isn't just to understand symbols. It's to use that understanding to completely redesign our society. And that application has a name: the mandates. It's pitched as a blueprint for a way of organizing ourselves that's based on the same kind of elegant, interconnected logic we see in the alphabet. It's about moving from a society based on control to one based on coherence. And here's what it looks like in practice. It's a fractal model, which just means the same simple pattern repeats at different scales. It starts small, with local groups of maybe 50 to 150 people, about the size of a natural human community. Those groups then connect into regional ones, then continental, all the way up to a planetary level. Same pattern, from local to global. So, you might be thinking, how does this not just turn into another power trip? Well, it's got these guardrails built right in. Decisions are made based on consent, not just majority rule. There are no permanent leaders. People take turns facilitating. Everything is radically transparent, and maybe the most important rule of all, you always have the right to leave a group that isn't working for you. Okay, so get ready, because this is where the story takes a hard left turn into territory you would absolutely never expect. You'd think a system this deep would be hidden away in some ancient, dusty books, right? But the claim is that this pattern, it's hiding in plain sight. I mean, if this code is really a universal pattern for how things work, shouldn't we see it pop up in other places? The answer is, well, it's wild. Yep, you heard that right.
Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase. The argument is that sometimes the most profound ideas are hidden in the most unlikely, even seemingly goofy places. According to this analysis, this movie isn't just a silly cartoon. It's actually a super sophisticated text, a kind of modern myth about escaping a simulated reality and putting yourself back together. It's a story about transformation. You see, the way the movie is laid out, the gang traveling through 10 video game levels, meeting their digital lookalikes, facing a final boss, it maps almost perfectly onto these ancient, classic stories, like Plato's allegory of the cave or the hero's journey. It's the same universal code, just wearing a different costume. So, what does all this mean? The alphabet, the blueprint for society, even Scooby-Doo. It all boils down to that one simple, fundamental choice we started with, the choice between two totally different ways of being. And the sources lay out the stakes very, very clearly. We can learn to coordinate, to use this new logic of coherence and play, or we can just keep going with the old logic of competition until the whole system breaks down. And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. If it's true, if our symbols really do program our reality, and we're writing the code for our world with every word, then the future isn't something that just happens to us. It's something we write together. The only question is, what story are we going to write next?